The concept of being nice is widely confused with being submissive in contemporary society. When someone is excessively kind, the line between true kindness and the desire to please others becomes blurred, leaving the individual vulnerable to emotional manipulation and abuse. True kindness stems from a genuine place of empathy, where the interest in others' well-being comes authentically, without expecting anything in return. However, many fall into the trap of being overly agreeable, sacrificing their own boundaries, and desires to keep the peace and avoid conflict. This relentless pursuit of social acceptance can lead to a detachment from one's true self, resulting in profound emotional exhaustion. In many cultures, being nice is often seen as a virtue, yet this idealization of kindness can sometimes mask deeper psychological issues, particularly when it's used as a tool for avoidance. The societal pressure to conform to these standards leaves little room for individuals to express their true emotions or assert their own needs. As a result, people may unintentionally create a facade that is disconnected from their authentic identity, leading to a loss of self and an inability to set healthy boundaries. Friedrich Nietzsche's perspective on morality offers a compelling lens through which we can view the overemphasis on kindness in society. Nietzsche argued that moral values often reflect weakness, and in particular the slave morality he described, where humility and self-sacrifice are glorified, can contribute to an unhealthy form of submission. Excessive kindness, then, can be a manifestation of this type of morality, a way of ingratiating oneself to others at the expense of personal power and self-expression. Nietzsche warned against the dangers of being overly concerned with how others perceive us, as it often leads to a life lived in the shadow of others' expectations rather than one's own true desires. When individuals prioritize kindness above all else, they may inadvertently suppress their natural desires, creating an internal conflict between what they truly want and what they believe they should offer to others. This internal dissonance can lead to a loss of self-esteem and self-worth as the individual becomes trapped in a cycle of self-sacrifice and self-neglect. Carl Jung's psychological theory of the persona offers another valuable insight into the issue of excessive niceness. The persona is the social mask we wear to conform to societal expectations and present an acceptable version of ourselves to the world. While the persona can be an essential tool for navigating social situations, it can also become a prison if it is overemphasized or relied upon too heavily. For individuals who identify too strongly with being nice, the persona may become a shield to protect them from the vulnerability of showing their true selves. The more someone leans into this mask, the further they distance themselves from their authentic identity. Over time, this disconnection from their true self can manifest in feelings of emptiness and frustration as the person becomes unsure of who they really are beneath the persona they have created. This dynamic underscores how being too nice can often be an unconscious defense mechanism, a way to hide one's true emotions and desires in order to avoid confrontation or rejection. Moreover, the distinction between being genuinely kind and simply being a people pleaser is crucial. A people pleaser is someone who constantly seeks approval from others, often to the detriment of their own well-being. This behavior stems from a deep-seated fear of rejection or criticism, and while it may seem like kindness on the surface, it is rooted in insecurity and a lack of self-confidence. True kindness, on the other hand, is not contingent upon others' approval, but arises from a place of strength and self-assurance. It is an expression of empathy that does not demand validation or compliance from others. The people pleasers' constant need to gain approval from others can lead to burnout, resentment, and even a sense of being trapped in an endless cycle of self-sacrifice. In the end, this kind of niceness is not sustainable, as it is based on a fragile foundation of fear rather than authentic compassion. Thus, the illusion of niceness is ultimately a mask that hides the deeper emotional turmoil and lack of personal fulfillment that many individuals experience as they try to please others at their own expense. The paradox of kindness is that while society celebrates those who are agreeable and self-sacrificing, it simultaneously exploits them in ways that undermine their well-being. Nice people, those who are constantly willing to help others and avoid conflict, often find themselves taken advantage of in personal relationships, the workplace, and social circles. The need to constantly be agreeable, to maintain peace at any cost, and to meet the expectations of others creates a constant state of tension and self-neglect. Over time, this relentless drive to accommodate others leads to a depletion of emotional energy. These individuals often suppress their true feelings, fearing that expressing dissatisfaction or frustration will jeopardize their relationships or social standing. In doing so, they deny themselves the opportunity to process their emotions in a healthy way, which can eventually manifest as anxiety or even depression. The inability to assert one's own needs or desires leads to an internal conflict. On one hand, the individual feels compelled to meet the expectations of others, but on the other, they begin to resent the emotional toll it takes on them. This resentment festers beneath the surface, causing stress and internal frustration. Carl Jung's concept of emotional repression offers an insightful framework for understanding how the suppression of natural feelings contributes to psychological strain. According to Jung, the process of repression, where emotions and desires are pushed out of conscious awareness, creates a gap between the persona, the social mask, and the shadow, the hidden, suppressed aspects of the self. The person who is overly nice often suppresses their anger, frustration, or assertiveness in order to maintain the image of being agreeable or kind. However, these repressed emotions don't simply disappear. They lurk beneath the surface, gradually, influencing the individual's mental and physical health. Jung's shadow work emphasizes the importance of integrating these repressed parts of the self, acknowledging that by denying our darker emotions, we are only feeding them, and they will inevitably erupt in unhealthy ways. The person who constantly suppresses their negative feelings in an attempt to maintain their niceness is more likely to experience emotional burnout when their hidden frustrations finally surface. This eruption can come in the form of anger, anxiety, or even physical illness as the body and mind are pushed to their limits. The psychological cost of excessive niceness is also deeply connected to self-esteem. People who are overly accommodating often experience a diminished sense of self-worth because they neglect their own needs for the sake of others. In many cases, the nice person ties their sense of value to their ability to please others, which creates a fragile self-image that is dependent on external validation. This dependence on others' approval can lead to feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. When they are not able to meet everyone's expectations or when their kindness is not reciprocated, they feel worthless. Over time, this erosion of self-esteem can lead to a cycle of self-doubt and chronic dissatisfaction. They may question their own worth or wonder why they are unable to meet the demands of those around them, despite their constant effort. This cycle can leave them emotionally drained, and because they have not set boundaries or expressed their true feelings, they may feel trapped in a perpetual state of unfulfilled need. Studies on the lack of assertiveness also support the idea that people who avoid confrontation and prioritize others' needs are more likely to suffer from anxiety and depression. Research has shown that individuals who struggle to assert themselves are more likely to experience feelings of helplessness, which can lead to higher levels of anxiety and stress. Assertiveness is not about being aggressive. It is about recognizing one's own needs and being able to communicate them in a respectful manner. The inability to assert oneself often leads to a sense of powerlessness, as individuals feel as though they are unable to control their own lives or make decisions that align with their true desires. This lack of control can exacerbate feelings of anxiety, as the individual constantly feels like they are at the mercy of others' demands. In addition, the ongoing strain of trying to please everyone can lead to burnout, as the individual's emotional reserves are depleted, leaving them unable to cope with the challenges of daily life. The emotional burnout that results from excessive niceness is not just a result of external pressures, but also a consequence of the internal conflict between one's true self and the persona they project. This internal conflict creates a sense of dissonance, as the individual feels that they are not living in alignment with their authentic desires. Over time, this dissonance builds up and becomes more difficult to ignore. The emotional exhaustion that comes with constantly trying to be someone they are not can lead to a deep sense of dissatisfaction with life. The nice person may begin to feel resentful toward those who take advantage of their kindness, or they may experience a sense of emptiness, as if their kindness is not truly appreciated. In a world where assertiveness and competitiveness are often rewarded, individuals who prioritize the needs of others above their own can become targets for manipulation. The underlying assumption in this dynamic is that kindness is a virtue, and thus, those who exhibit it are seen as more trustworthy and reliable. However, the very nature of kindness becomes distorted when it is expected without reciprocation, leaving the individual who is too nice vulnerable to exploitation. In relationships, the person who constantly gives may find themselves emotionally drained and overlooked, as others take their kindness for granted. This creates a cycle where the kind individual is repeatedly used, yet their emotional needs remain unmet. Robert Greene's analysis of power dynamics sheds light on why those who avoid conflict and seek to please others often lose out in the battle for influence. In his book, The 48 Laws of Power, Greene emphasizes that power rarely belongs to those who avoid confrontation or fail to assert themselves. Nice people, by constantly prioritizing others' desires over their own, unknowingly cede control to those who are more assertive and willing to impose their own will. In many cases, those who exploit the overly kind see their actions as a form of strategic manipulation, using the niceness of others to further their own agendas. This manipulation can be subtle, such as taking credit for others' work, or more overt, such as using guilt or emotional blackmail to get what they want. The nice person, by not setting clear boundaries, becomes an easy target for these kinds of emotional games. Over time, they begin to question their own worth and lose their sense of autonomy, all in the name of maintaining harmony and being agreeable. One of the most insidious forms of exploitation is guilt tripping, where manipulators use the kindness and generosity of others against them. This tactic plays on the nice person's desire to please and their fear of letting others down. When someone is consistently giving of themselves without asking for anything in return, they may be perceived as a source of endless support. Manipulators will exploit this generosity, often pushing the nice person into situations where they are expected to go above and beyond, even when it is detrimental to their own well-being. Guilt tripping creates a toxic environment where the nice person is made to feel guilty for even considering their own needs or desires. The emotional toll of this constant manipulation can be overwhelming, as the individual begins to feel powerless and resentful. At its core, guilt tripping is a form of emotional coercion that exploits the inherent goodness in people who struggle to say no or assert their boundaries. Setting boundaries is essential for anyone who wants to avoid the exploitation of their kindness. The failure to establish clear limits can lead to emotional and psychological burnout, as individuals who are too nice become overextended in their attempts to please others. By not asserting themselves, they allow others to dictate the terms of their relationships and work environments, often at the expense of their own needs. Setting boundaries doesn't mean being unkind or hostile, but rather having the self-respect to say no when necessary. It means being able to stand up for oneself without feeling guilty or selfish. People who are able to establish healthy boundaries are better equipped to navigate the demands of both their personal and professional lives, ensuring that they are not taken advantage of by others. In fact, the ability to assert oneself is a key component of emotional intelligence and personal strength. By learning to say no and protect their own well-being, individuals can avoid the trap of being exploited and maintain their own sense of integrity and self-worth. Ultimately, society's reward system for nice people often leads to an unhealthy dynamic where individuals are expected to give without receiving. This can result in emotional depletion, resentment, and a loss of self-identity. As Robert Greene highlights, true power comes from the ability to maintain control over one's own life and decisions, rather than constantly yielding to the demands of others. By learning to balance kindness with assertiveness, individuals can protect themselves from being exploited and cultivate more fulfilling, reciprocal relationships. The key is not to abandon kindness, but to recognize that true kindness involves mutual respect, personal boundaries, and a healthy sense of self-worth. In this way, kindness becomes a strength rather than a vulnerability, empowering individuals to navigate the complexities of life without losing themselves in the process. The emotional toll of being excessively nice is profound and often overlooked. Individuals who prioritize pleasing others over their own well-being frequently experience anxiety, resentment, and emotional burnout. This sense of emptiness is compounded by the fact that they have denied their own needs and desires for so long. The emotional cost of being too nice is therefore not just about the strain it places on one's relationships, but also about the toll it takes on the individual's mental and emotional health. The concept of the shadow in Carl Jung's psychological framework is crucial for understanding the dangers of excessive niceness and its potential to lead to emotional and psychological imbalance. The shadow represents the repressed, hidden aspects of the self, those qualities, desires, and emotions that a person rejects or suppresses in order to conform to societal norms or personal ideals. In the case of overly nice individuals, the shadow often includes emotions like anger, frustration, or assertiveness, traits that, while not inherently negative, are seen as socially unacceptable or unpleasant. People who identify as nice may go to great lengths to suppress these emotions in order to maintain a socially acceptable persona, fearing that expressing anger or disappointment will make them seem bad or unlikable. However, the suppression of these natural emotions does not eliminate them. Instead, it forces them into the unconscious, where they can grow stronger and more destructive. Over time, these repressed emotions find ways to manifest, often in ways that the person cannot control or predict. The danger of this suppression is that it creates a cycle of emotional repression that is not only mentally exhausting, but can lead to the eruption of these repressed emotions in ways that are far more destructive than if they had been addressed openly in the first place. For example, someone who constantly suppresses feelings of anger in an effort to maintain a nice image may eventually experience an explosive outburst, surprising themselves and others. This outburst is not a simple release of frustration, but rather the culmination of years of repressed emotions that have built up and been ignored. Jung's shadow work suggests that the only way to prevent these harmful eruptions is to confront and integrate the parts of ourselves that we are reluctant to acknowledge. By doing so, we can transform these negative emotions into something constructive, allowing for a more balanced and authentic expression of self. The repression of anger, for instance, does not make the individual less angry, but more likely to experience irrational rage when they can no longer hold it in. The shadow, therefore, is not something to be feared or avoided, but something that must be understood and integrated in order for a person to become whole. The suppression of natural emotions can also contribute to a sense of disconnection from oneself. As nice individuals constantly push aside their desires or needs in favor of others, they lose touch with their true selves, resulting in a profound sense of alienation. The more they focus on pleasing others and adhering to the expectations of society, the more disconnected they become from their own authentic thoughts, feelings, and desires. This disconnection creates an internal void, a feeling of emptiness or loss of identity. The longer the repression continues, the more the individual may feel like a shell of who they truly are, unable to identify their own passions, beliefs, or boundaries. It becomes increasingly difficult to know what they want or need because their own inner voice has been drowned out by the incessant demands of others. This fragmentation of self is a direct consequence of the failure to integrate the shadow, those suppressed yet essential aspects of the self. The historical and psychological consequences of emotional repression and shadow denial can be seen in numerous examples throughout history and literature. The tragic fate of many historical figures who were unable to reconcile their inner conflicts provides a stark warning of the dangers of suppressing the shadow. For instance, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who believed that confronting and embracing the darker aspects of human nature was essential for personal growth, warned that individuals who deny their darker impulses will be consumed by them. His concept of the Übermensch, overman, reflects the idea of a person who transcends societal norms and embraces all aspects of their nature, including the shadowy or rejected parts of themselves. By fully integrating these aspects, individuals can unlock their true potential and live more authentically. The suppression of these parts of the self, on the other hand, leads to personal disintegration and ultimately a loss of identity and self-control. The consequences of repression are not confined to the individual. They also have a profound impact on relationships. The person who suppresses their anger or frustration in the name of being nice may find themselves increasingly resentful toward those they are trying to please. This hidden resentment can fester over time, leading to passive-aggressive behaviors, subtle manipulations, or even a quiet sense of betrayal. The person who continually gives without ever expressing their true needs may feel unappreciated, yet unable to communicate this frustration effectively. In many cases, these repressed emotions lead to an eventual breakdown in communication, creating tension and distance in relationships. People who are overly focused on being nice may find themselves trapped in one-sided dynamics, where they are expected to constantly give but rarely receive in return. The inability to express dissatisfaction or ask for reciprocity creates a silent imbalance that slowly erodes the quality of the relationship. By confronting and integrating the shadow, individuals can learn to communicate more honestly and assertively, leading to healthier, more balanced relationships. Ultimately, the suppression of emotions in the name of being nice may provide temporary relief from conflict, but it carries a heavy psychological price. The shadow, when denied, grows more powerful and begins to control the individual's behavior in harmful ways. True personal growth and emotional well-being come from integrating these repressed aspects of the self, allowing for a more balanced, authentic existence. The key to overcoming the toxic effects of excessive niceness lies not in rejecting kindness, but in embracing the full spectrum of one's emotions, acknowledging the shadow and allowing it to inform a more genuine and empowered way of being. The difficulty that nice people face in achieving power and success is deeply rooted in the tension between their desire to be liked and the demands of the competitive world around them. The concept of master-slave morality, as articulated by Friedrich Nietzsche, provides a valuable lens through which to understand this struggle. Nietzsche argues that there are two types of morality: the morality of the masters, who assert their will and live according to their own values, and the morality of the slaves, who define themselves in relation to the masters and base their actions on submission, humility, and the desire to avoid conflict. The nice person, who continually seeks to please others and avoid confrontation, aligns with the morality of the slave, where their actions are driven by a desire to conform and please rather than a strong sense of personal will. This slave morality often results in the nice person failing to assert themselves when it matters most, especially in competitive or high-stakes environments where power dynamics are in play. In the workplace, for example, nice individuals may struggle to advance because they often avoid confrontation, fail to promote themselves, and are reluctant to assert their boundaries. This lack of assertiveness can be perceived as a weakness in environments where self-promotion, decisiveness, and a willingness to challenge the status quo are valued. While they may be excellent collaborators and team players, nice people may find it difficult to step into leadership roles, where confidence and the ability to make tough decisions are crucial. Furthermore, the reluctance to say no or to confront others when necessary often leaves nice individuals vulnerable to being taken advantage of. They may be burdened with more work than their counterparts or be passed over for opportunities because they have not been able to advocate for themselves effectively. As a result, they often find themselves stuck in positions where their potential is underappreciated, simply because they are unable to assert themselves or push for what they deserve. One of the key aspects of power dynamics, as Robert Greene highlights in the 48 Laws of Power, is that power is not simply about having influence, but also about the ability to control one's own image and actions. Nice people, by contrast, often give too much of themselves to others, which diminishes their control over their own lives and goals. They tend to put others' needs above their own, and as a result, they become less focused on their own ambitions. This self-sacrificial approach makes it difficult for them to create a sense of personal authority or to set themselves apart in a competitive landscape. According to Greene, successful individuals understand the importance of self-interest, knowing when to give and when to withhold in order to maintain power and leverage. The inability to navigate this balance, the constant giving without regard for personal gain, leads to a lack of respect and recognition from others. As Greene suggests, those who avoid conflict and do not assert their interests are often overshadowed by those who are more willing to take risks, challenge others, and establish themselves as leaders. A critical factor in the struggle of nice people is their inability to say no when necessary. This inability is not simply a matter of politeness, but often stems from deep-seated fears of rejection, guilt, and being perceived as selfish. In professional settings, those who cannot assert boundaries may find themselves stretched too thin, overcommitted and unable to focus on their personal goals. They may be seen as dependable or loyal, but the lack of assertiveness prevents them from stepping into roles that require initiative or the ability to make bold, independent decisions. The paradox is that the more nice people give, the less they are able to receive or accomplish for themselves. The act of saying no, while uncomfortable, is essential for maintaining personal autonomy and focusing on what truly matters. Without the ability to set clear boundaries, nice people are often relegated to supporting roles rather than taking leadership positions, where they can truly wield power and influence. Moreover, the passivity of nice people often results in them being overlooked in favor of more aggressive or self-promoting individuals. In social or professional circles, power often gravitates toward those who are confident, assertive, and willing to engage in conflict if necessary. Nice people, by contrast, may shy away from conflict and avoid speaking up when their ideas or needs are being ignored. This passivity not only prevents them from gaining power or recognition, but also hinders their ability to challenge injustices or fight for what they truly want. Over time, the inability to stand up for oneself or to assert personal desires leads to frustration and a diminished sense of self-worth. The constant deferral of one's own needs in favor of others creates a sense of invisibility, as if one's contributions and talents are undervalued or ignored. In the end, the nice person often finds themselves in a cycle of underachievement, where their kindness is not reciprocated and their potential remains untapped. In order to overcome this struggle and achieve true success, nice people must develop a sense of inner strength and assertiveness. This doesn't mean abandoning kindness, but rather balancing it with the ability to stand firm in one's beliefs and desires. By embracing a more masterful approach to life, one where personal needs are valued as much as the needs of others, individuals can begin to navigate the complex world of power dynamics more effectively. This means learning when to say no, when to take risks, and when to assert one's interests without guilt. It requires a shift from being a passive participant in one's own life to becoming an active agent of change, someone who is not afraid to challenge the status quo or to pursue opportunities with confidence. In this way, nice people can reclaim their power and achieve the success they deserve without compromising their authenticity or values. The fear of being disliked is one of the most insidious traps that nice people fall into, and it often lies at the heart of their struggles with power and personal fulfillment. This fear, rooted in the desire for external validation and acceptance, can be paralyzing and deeply self-limiting. Biologically, humans are wired for connection, and social acceptance has always been essential for survival. However, in the modern world, this primal need for approval can quickly turn into a psychological prison, where the person's self-worth is entirely contingent upon how others perceive them. The fear of disapproval drives nice people to go to extreme lengths to please others, often at the expense of their own well-being. They avoid confrontation, suppress their true opinions, and continuously sacrifice their own needs to maintain harmony and acceptance. While this may create short-term comfort, it creates long-term emotional and psychological damage, trapping them in a cycle of weakness and self-neglect. Robert Greene's insights on power dynamics are particularly relevant when considering how the fear of being disliked impacts success and personal growth. In the 48 Laws of Power, Greene emphasizes that great leaders and strategists never seek to please everyone. In fact, he argues that the very act of trying to be liked by everyone makes an individual weak and vulnerable. A leader who is constantly worried about the opinions of others is easily manipulated, lacks true influence, and ultimately fails to gain respect. This is because people do not respect those who are overly eager to please. Instead, they are often seen as predictable, easily controlled, and lacking in depth. By focusing too much on others' approval, the nice person inadvertently surrenders their own power, allowing external forces to dictate their actions and decisions. The inability to assert oneself or make difficult choices out of fear of rejection leaves them stuck in a position where their personal goals and desires are sidelined, and they become dependent on others' judgment to feel good about themselves. This fear of rejection also has a profound effect on personal relationships. The person who is desperate to be liked often suppresses their true feelings or desires in order to avoid conflict, creating an illusion of harmony that hides an underlying sense of dissatisfaction and frustration. In relationships, this dynamic can lead to an unhealthy dependency, where one person continually seeks validation from the other, often at the cost of their own autonomy. When someone is overly concerned with being liked, they are less likely to speak their mind, set healthy boundaries, or express genuine emotions. This leaves their relationships one-sided and shallow, as the nice person may be giving without receiving the same level of emotional reciprocity. Over time, this one-sided dynamic leads to resentment and a deep sense of emotional exhaustion. The inability to be authentic and assertive creates distance between the individual and their loved ones, as the person becomes more and more disconnected from their true self in an effort to appease others. The psychological effects of the fear of being disliked also contribute to a fragile sense of self-esteem. When a person is constantly seeking external validation, their sense of self-worth becomes dependent on the approval of others. This creates a dangerous cycle where the person becomes less confident in their own judgment and more reliant on others' opinions. If someone rejects them or criticizes their actions, it can lead to a significant blow to their self-esteem, resulting in feelings of inadequacy or worthlessness. The more one seeks to be liked, the more difficult it becomes to maintain a stable sense of self-worth, as the individual's self-image is entirely shaped by external factors. This is particularly evident in the world of social media, where the constant quest for likes, comments, and followers reinforces the idea that self-worth is based on external validation. In turn, this makes the fear of being disliked even more intense, as people become increasingly addicted to the approval of others, constantly seeking reassurance and affirmation. To break free from the cycle of weakness created by the fear of being disliked, it is essential for nice people to develop a stronger sense of self-acceptance and internal validation. This involves learning to trust their own judgment and prioritize their needs and desires over the approval of others. It means embracing the reality that not everyone will like them, and that this is not only inevitable, but also necessary for personal growth. True self-confidence comes from within, and it is only by letting go of the need for external validation that one can begin to live authentically. Practicing self-compassion and setting boundaries are crucial steps in this process. Instead of seeking to please everyone, nice people must learn to say no when necessary and stand firm in their values and desires. This shift in mindset allows them to reclaim their power and establish healthier, more balanced relationships. By accepting that being disliked is an inevitable part of life, individuals can begin to release the fear that holds them back and start to make choices that align with their true selves. The journey toward overcoming the fear of being disliked also involves rethinking the concept of rejection. Rather than viewing rejection as a personal failure or an indication of inadequacy, it should be seen as a natural part of life and a necessary experience for growth. Rejection can be an opportunity to reflect on one's values and desires, to refine boundaries, and to become more resilient. By reframing rejection as a stepping stone to greater self-awareness, individuals can shift their focus from seeking external approval to cultivating internal strength. This process takes time and effort, but the rewards are significant. A life that is lived authentically, free from the constant fear of disapproval, and full of opportunities for true personal power and success. Manipulators and narcissists are expert at spotting and exploiting individuals who are overly nice and accommodating, making the nice person an easy target for emotional exploitation. These individuals often use their charm, deceit, and manipulative tactics to prey on those who have difficulty asserting themselves or setting boundaries. Narcissists, in particular, are skilled at identifying people with a high degree of empathy and a strong desire to help others, which are traits that nice people tend to exhibit. The narcissist's ability to charm and create an illusion of goodwill often leads nice individuals to let their guard down and trust them. However, beneath this facade lies an insidious intention to use and control the nice person for personal gain. Narcissists and manipulators thrive on power and control, and nice people, with their reluctance to challenge others or say no, provide the perfect opportunity for this kind of exploitation. These manipulative individuals are adept at using psychological tactics such as gaslighting, guilt-tripping, and emotional blackmail to make the nice person feel responsible for their emotional well-being or actions, further reinforcing the cycle of dependency. One of the most dangerous tactics used by manipulators is gaslighting, a form of psychological manipulation in which the manipulator distorts reality in order to make the victim question their perception, memory, or sanity. In relationships where one party is excessively nice, the manipulator may subtly undermine their self-confidence, making them doubt their own feelings and instincts. For example, a narcissistic partner might accuse the nice person of being overly sensitive or selfish when they attempt to assert their needs, effectively silencing their concerns. Over time, the nice person becomes more confused, isolated, and unsure of themselves, which ultimately makes them more dependent on the manipulator for validation and direction. The narcissist's goal is to create a power imbalance where they maintain control over the nice person who is now emotionally and psychologically destabilized. This dynamic allows the manipulator to get what they want, often without the nice person even realizing they are being exploited. Carl Jung's concept of projection plays a significant role in how manipulators and narcissists target nice individuals. Projection, in Jungian terms, is the psychological process by which an individual attributes their own unconscious thoughts, feelings, or desires to another person. Narcissists and manipulators often project their own insecurities, fears, and negative traits onto others, creating a distorted narrative where the nice person feels guilty or responsible for the manipulator's behavior. For example, a narcissist may project their own sense of entitlement onto the nice person, accusing them of being selfish or unreasonable when the nice person refuses to comply with their demands. This projection serves to confuse the nice person, making them question whether their refusal to comply was, in fact, selfish or unjustified. By deflecting responsibility and shifting blame, the manipulator keeps the nice person in a constant state of self-doubt and guilt, making it difficult for them to break free from the toxic relationship. The power dynamics at play in these manipulative relationships are often insidious, operating in subtle ways that make the nice person feel as though they are the ones in the wrong, even when they are simply standing up for themselves or expressing their needs. Narcissists, for instance, often thrive in environments where they can manipulate others into doing their bidding without directly demanding anything. They are masters of passive-aggressive behavior, using guilt, shame, and subtle criticisms to wear down the nice person's defenses. By offering just enough affection, praise, or attention, narcissists are able to keep the nice person hooked, making them believe that the manipulator's love or approval is worth the emotional toll. This intermittent reinforcement, a psychological tactic where a person is given small doses of positive reinforcement after periods of manipulation, makes it even harder for the nice person to break free. The unpredictability of the narcissist's behavior creates a psychological trap where the nice person becomes addicted to the approval they receive, even though it is often coupled with emotional abuse. Moreover, the emotional toll of being in such a manipulative relationship can be devastating. Nice individuals who are targeted by narcissists often experience a decline in their mental health, struggling with feelings of confusion, self-doubt, anxiety, and depression. They may start to feel trapped, unable to escape the toxic cycle because they have been made to feel responsible for the narcissist's well-being or happiness. The more they try to help or accommodate the manipulator, the more they are exploited, until they are emotionally drained and disconnected from their own needs and desires. It's not uncommon for nice people to lose sight of their own goals and values as they become consumed with meeting the demands of the narcissist. They may begin to feel as though they are stuck in a never-ending cycle of giving, with little to no reciprocation or appreciation. This emotional depletion eventually leads to a sense of powerlessness and a loss of personal identity. To protect themselves from manipulators and narcissists, nice people must learn to recognize these toxic patterns and develop stronger boundaries. Setting boundaries is essential for maintaining emotional health and preventing manipulation, but it requires a shift in mindset. Nice people must move away from the idea that being liked or loved is worth sacrificing their own well-being and self-respect. They must prioritize their own needs, learn to say no, and recognize when they are being manipulated or gaslit. This process involves developing self-awareness and trusting one's instincts. If something feels wrong, it likely is, and nice individuals must learn to trust their intuition rather than dismissing their feelings in favor of pleasing others. It also means learning to let go of the fear of being disliked or rejected, as maintaining personal boundaries and self-respect should always take precedence over maintaining a false sense of harmony. By taking these steps, nice people can break free from toxic relationships and regain control over their lives, allowing them to build healthier, more balanced connections based on mutual respect and authenticity. The concept of strategic kindness is about harnessing the power of compassion without becoming a doormat or being exploited by others. Many nice people fail to realize that kindness, when employed with strategic purpose, can be a powerful tool for influence and success. Rather than being a passive trait, kindness can be an active, calculated decision that fosters respect and collaboration. The key is knowing when and how to be kind, balancing it with assertiveness, and maintaining control over one's emotions and actions. In the world of power dynamics, Robert Greene's work on strategy, particularly in The 48 Laws of Power, teaches us that generosity and kindness can be incredibly effective tools, but only when used with intention and boundaries. True strategic kindness is not about people-pleasing, but rather about using one's empathy and understanding to create alliances, establish mutual respect, and navigate complex social landscapes. Strategic kindness requires self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Unlike the nice person who fears rejection and approval, someone who practices strategic kindness does so with clarity and purpose. They understand that being kind does not mean sacrificing their needs or becoming emotionally vulnerable. Instead, they are capable of extending compassion and support in ways that also serve their personal goals and values. For instance, in business or leadership contexts, showing kindness to others can build trust and loyalty, paving the way for collaboration and influence. However, this kindness is tempered with wisdom. It's not about offering unquestioning assistance or self-sacrifice, but about creating value for both parties. By offering support or mentorship to others, a strategic individual can foster goodwill while also strengthening their own position, creating a network of allies who will stand by them when needed. This type of kindness is grounded in an understanding of mutual benefit and reciprocity, where both sides gain something valuable from the relationship. Jung's idea of the integrated self is also key to practicing strategic kindness. When we fail to acknowledge our shadows, the parts of ourselves we suppress or deny, we often operate from a place of insecurity or fear, making our kindness conditional and manipulative. However, when we integrate both the light and dark aspects of ourselves, we can approach others with authenticity, avoiding the trap of seeking validation through excessive generosity. Jung's shadow work encourages us to embrace the full spectrum of our personality, understanding our vulnerabilities and strengths. Only by accepting the darker aspects of ourselves can we maintain true power in our interactions. Strategic kindness arises from this wholeness. It's not born from a desire to be liked or accepted, but from a genuine desire to foster connections, communicate compassion, and create positive outcomes for both parties. A person who practices strategic kindness is not afraid to assert themselves when necessary or to say no when their boundaries are violated. They are not motivated by fear or insecurity, but by a clear understanding of their needs and their values. The danger for the nice person is that kindness can easily become a form of self-sabotage when it is not tempered with boundaries and self-respect. It's easy to become trapped in the mindset that kindness requires endless sacrifice or that saying no is inherently unkind. This misconception often leads to resentment, burnout, and emotional exhaustion, as the nice person gives more than they receive. Strategic kindness, however, is rooted in balance. It involves giving generously when appropriate, but also knowing when to hold back in order to protect one's time, energy, and emotional well-being. In this context, kindness is not about being a perpetual giver, but about using empathy to establish boundaries that are mutually beneficial. It is about understanding that kindness doesn't require complete self-abandonment. It's possible to be both kind and assertive, gentle and firm, compassionate and strong. Strategic kindness doesn't diminish one's power or influence. In fact, it enhances it by fostering respect and trust, which are crucial components of any successful relationship, be it personal or professional. This nuanced approach to kindness also helps to protect against manipulation and exploitation. By practicing strategic kindness, individuals are less likely to be taken advantage of by others who may see their kindness as a weakness. When someone is able to act with compassion while maintaining clear boundaries, they signal to others that they cannot be easily manipulated. The ability to say no or to walk away from a toxic situation without feeling guilty is a key aspect of strategic kindness. It sends a message that kindness is not synonymous with self-sacrifice and that one's time and energy are valuable. People will begin to respect this individual more as they see them as someone who values themselves and expects others to do the same. This level of self-respect allows for healthier, more reciprocal relationships where kindness is given and received in a balanced way, fostering trust, collaboration, and mutual respect. Ultimately, the art of strategic kindness is about mastering the balance between compassion and power. It requires a deep understanding of oneself, the ability to recognize and set boundaries, and the wisdom to act in ways that foster both personal growth and positive relationships. By learning how to be kind in a way that doesn't deplete one's energy or self-worth, nice people can elevate their interactions, create stronger connections, and maintain their personal integrity. Strategic kindness is not about being kind in every situation. It's about being kind when it is most beneficial and necessary, while ensuring that one's needs are not compromised in the process. This is the key to navigating the complexities of human relationships and achieving long-term success, both personally and professionally. By embracing strategic kindness, individuals can unlock the full potential of their relationships without sacrificing their power or identity. Transforming niceness into strength requires a deep understanding of oneself and a commitment to developing the qualities that support assertiveness, resilience, and self-respect. It is not about abandoning kindness, but about integrating it with personal power in such a way that one becomes both compassionate and unyielding when it comes to protecting one's boundaries and values. This transformation is an ongoing process that involves cultivating self-awareness, building emotional resilience, and learning to navigate the complexities of power dynamics without compromising one's authenticity. Drawing from the philosophies of Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Robert Greene, individuals can find practical tools and mental frameworks that allow them to grow beyond the limitations of excessive niceness and become more empowered in their personal and professional lives. The key is understanding that kindness is not a weakness, but a strength when channeled effectively and aligned with personal power. One of the first steps in transforming niceness into strength is to recognize and embrace the shadow within. As Carl Jung proposed, the shadow consists of the unconscious aspects of our personality, traits, desires, and impulses that we have repressed or denied. Often, nice people tend to suppress their assertiveness, anger, or any emotion that could be seen as confrontational in the pursuit of harmony and acceptance. However, Jung argued that by acknowledging and integrating these darker, more uncomfortable aspects of ourselves, we can become whole. This means allowing ourselves to experience and express emotions like frustration, anger, and disappointment, without guilt or shame. Only by accepting these parts of ourselves can we develop the courage to stand up for what we believe in and protect our needs and desires. By doing so, niceness evolves from a passive trait into a proactive, strategic quality that aligns with our core values. Embracing the shadow doesn't mean acting out in destructive ways, but instead giving ourselves permission to express our full range of emotions authentically, without fear of rejection or judgment. Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of master-slave morality further enriches this transformation by highlighting the difference between those who live by their own values and those who are constrained by societal expectations or external approval. The nice person often falls into the trap of slave morality, where they derive their sense of worth from pleasing others or adhering to social conventions. Nietzsche believed that true power comes from the ability to define one's own values and to act according to one's own will, independent of the approval of others. This shift is crucial for anyone who wishes to transform niceness into strength. By rejecting the need to be universally liked or accepted, and instead focusing on cultivating personal integrity and authenticity, individuals can develop a sense of inner strength that is not dependent on external validation. This means learning to say no without guilt, setting firm boundaries, and not allowing others to dictate one's emotional state. The more one practices this, the stronger and more confident they will become, transforming their niceness into a source of genuine power rather than a tool for self-sacrifice. The teachings of Robert Greene, particularly in the 48 Laws of Power, offer practical strategies for navigating power dynamics and learning how to use kindness effectively. Greene emphasizes the importance of understanding when to show vulnerability and when to assert power. The balance between these two is key to transforming niceness into strength. A nice person may feel tempted to avoid confrontation or allow others to take advantage of their good nature, but Greene teaches us that true power lies in the ability to control our responses and to use kindness with strategic intent. For example, Greene's Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew, suggests that understanding the weaknesses and motivations of others can help one gain leverage in relationships. By being compassionate and empathetic, a person can build rapport and influence, but by recognizing the dynamics at play, they can also ensure they are not being manipulated. Transforming niceness into strength involves being strategic in our interactions, using kindness to foster trust, but also being discerning enough to protect ourselves from exploitation. Finally, incorporating Stoic philosophy into this transformation can provide a solid foundation for handling challenges and adversity. Stoicism teaches the importance of focusing on what we can control and accepting what we cannot. This mindset can be incredibly liberating for the nice person, as it encourages them to stop seeking approval from others and instead concentrate on their own growth and well-being. The Stoic practice of amor fati, the love of one's fate, reminds us that we must embrace all aspects of our lives, including the struggles and conflicts, as opportunities for growth. This perspective allows the nice person to become more resilient in the face of criticism or rejection, knowing that their worth is not determined by the opinions of others. By integrating Stoic principles into their lives, individuals can cultivate emotional fortitude, making it easier to say no when necessary and to stay true to their values even when faced with external pressure. The process of transforming niceness into strength is not instantaneous. It requires patience, self-reflection, and a commitment to growth. It involves unlearning the habits of people-pleasing, embracing the full spectrum of our emotions, and developing the courage to assert our needs and boundaries. By following the wisdom of Jung, Nietzsche, Greene, and the Stoics, individuals can break free from the constraints of excessive niceness and unlock their full potential. The result is a person who is not only kind and compassionate, but also strong, assertive, and resilient. Someone who can navigate the complexities of life with confidence and integrity. This transformation empowers individuals to become true masters of their own lives, using kindness as a tool for positive influence and personal strength, rather than as a means of self-sacrifice. In conclusion, the journey from being too nice to mastering a balance between kindness and strength is one of self-discovery, empowerment, and emotional growth. While niceness, in its purest form, can be a beautiful quality, it is only when it is strategically combined with self-respect, assertiveness, and personal integrity that it truly becomes a force for good. By embracing the wisdom of Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche, Robert Greene, and Stoic philosophy, we begin to understand that kindness does not have to come at the expense of our own needs or boundaries. Instead, it can be a tool, when used wisely, to build stronger relationships, achieve personal goals, and navigate the complexities of power dynamics without losing ourselves in the process. The key to this transformation lies in recognizing that niceness is not synonymous with weakness. By embracing the shadow parts of ourselves, acknowledging the complexities of power, and learning to say no when necessary, We stop being at the mercy of external expectations and begin to lead with confidence and authenticity. This is not about being harsh or cold. It is about being genuinely kind while also ensuring that we are not exploited or taken advantage of. It is about creating boundaries that protect our emotional well-being, our time, and our energy. True strength is not found in being endlessly agreeable or in seeking validation from others. It is found in the courage to express our true selves, to challenge norms when necessary, and to create relationships that are based on mutual respect, rather than manipulation or dependency. Transforming niceness into strength requires us to develop emotional resilience, integrate our whole selves, and cultivate a deep understanding of our values and goals. The result of this transformation is a life lived with greater purpose, greater authenticity, and greater power. We become not just nice people, but strong, grounded individuals who inspire respect and admiration, not because we seek it, but because we are true to ourselves. By embracing the art of strategic kindness, we create a path for personal fulfillment and success, not through self-sacrifice, but through the balanced, powerful use of our compassion and self-awareness. This is the strength of kindness, a strength that is unapologetically authentic, resilient, and transformative.